Hi guys, now that Brexit has blown up in the faces of the DUP another time, instead of taking responsibility for the consequences of leaving the EU, its leader Gavin Robinson, who recently took over from Jeffrey Donaldson, attacked the Tory party, the UK Parliament and the EU for not listening to their concerns regarding immigration when it came to the implementation of the Windsor Framework. Now this follows a decision in the High Court in Belfast which has forced Rishi Sunak and his brexiteer government to make a decision: scrap their migration legislation or abandon Northern Ireland. The Minister's response to all of this was waffle. Have a listen.
For the response, and I thank the Minister and the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland for being present today. But we need not be here, Mr. Speaker. The issues that were elucidated yesterday by the High Court in Belfast were fairly and thoroughly explored in this House and in the other place during both the passage of the Illegal Migration Act and the Safety of Rwanda Act as well. And when I and my colleagues raised these concerns here in Parliament, we were told by the government we were wrong. And yet the High Court yesterday in Belfast said we were right. And the only difference between the encroachment on the application of our sovereign immigration policy in Northern Ireland, as with the rest of the United Kingdom, for the Illegal Migration Act is that a case was advanced on the basis of the Illegal Migration Act, and yet one in the Safety of Rwanda Act has not yet been considered. But the government will know that the rationale outlined yesterday by the High Court for the Illegal Migration Act will similarly apply to the Safety of Rwanda Act as well. And it need not be so. Though the government chose to dismiss the concerns that we outlined in this House, and our colleagues did in the other place, they had an opportunity to put this issue beyond doubt.
No, they didn't. Because you obviously don't know, or you're pretending not to know, that there's a difference between what happens in Northern Ireland and the rest of the United Kingdom. Now, we have to remember that the DUP is a far-right party. When it comes to immigration, they're anti-immigration. And they wanted the Rwanda bill, the Illegal Migration Act, to apply to all of the United Kingdom. Now, it can't, because there are certain rights that need to be protected in Northern Ireland because of the Good Friday Agreement. Remember, the DUP is against the Good Friday Agreement. They were against it until they were for it when it served their purposes. But generally, they're against the Good Friday Agreement. So they would prefer to see the Good Friday Agreement trashed in order to keep migrants out. They don't care about the rule of law. They don't care about human rights. They would prefer all of these human rights to be trampled upon in order for them to get this law applying all over the United Kingdom. It can't be. So either Gavin Robinson doesn't understand this, or he's pretending not to.
I tabled an amendment in New Clause 3 along with my colleagues, giving the government the opportunity to put the issue to bed, to maintain the integrity of this country's sovereign immigration policy and to maintain the integrity and protection of our borders, and they chose not to do so.
So this is once again a bit like Brexit, where instead of actually looking at, okay, is it possible that leaving the European Union will damage the Union? The DUP said, we don't care. We just want to leave the European Union. Our hatred of Ireland and the EU is stronger than any love for the Union. And here we have, once again, something similar. Our hatred of asylum seekers is stronger than any love for the Union. You know, you would imagine they would have been against this immigration bill because they realised, look, it won't be applied in Northern Ireland. But they voted for it. They voted along with the Tories for these bills in the House of Commons. Like, they were against. Perhaps some of them realised, wait a minute, there's the Good Friday Agreement, and they raised their concerns about this. But this is not a concern about protecting human rights. This is a concern about, well, we're not going to be able to kick out these asylum seekers. We're not going to be able to treat asylum seekers like crap as the Tories get to. We want to be like Tories, and we're not going to be able to do that. So their concern was not so much for the Union. It was about, we want to be anti-immigration like the Tories.
Mr. Speaker, I was going to ask, and I am grateful that the Minister has indicated his willingness to appeal. But can I also ask why, when they had the opportunity to put this issue beyond doubt, they did not? Do they recognise that in not doing so they have significantly impaired the uniformity of the UK's immigration policy?
Because it's not compatible with the Good Friday Agreement. See, the Tories want to diverge on human rights, but they have signed up to the Good Friday Agreement for Northern Ireland, so Northern Ireland can't diverge. You understand this. I honestly don't believe that he doesn't understand this, because he knows about the Good Friday Agreement. I'm pretty sure, even though he disagrees with it, I'm pretty sure he has read it and understands it.
In 1922, long before the EU was envisaged, long before the UK joined, and long after we departed, the islands of Great Britain and Ireland had an integrity in immigration policy. The common travel area applied. So I'd be interested to hear.
But the common travel area applies to British and Irish citizens. It doesn't apply to asylum seekers. Why the hell are you bringing up the common travel area here? Like you're desperate to use some sort of leverage against the government. Look, Gavin, you've lost. Why don't the DUP just accept that?
Here, as it did then, as it does now, what steps the government are taking to get a British Isles solution to immigration outside of the control of the EU and outside, as it is, of the Schengen area. And finally, Mr. Speaker, and I am.
This has nothing to do with the EU. This is to do with the Good Friday Agreement. Why is he bringing Schengen into this? Ireland is not part of Schengen. Britain is not part of Schengen. Like, what the hell are you bringing Schengen into this for?
Grateful what steps the Minister and his government will take to assert Parliament's sovereign will to protect the borders of the United Kingdom.
Well done.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm very grateful to the right honourable gentleman who, as ever, eloquently makes his case. And I'm grateful to him for the constructive tone that he has taken. And I also note the narrative that he has advanced. The government is considering, as you would expect, Mr. Speaker, the judgment very carefully, and we are taking legal advice around that. But I can reconfirm, as the Prime Minister said yesterday, that the government intends to appeal this judgment. We've consistently made clear that the rights commitments in the Belfast Good Friday Agreement should be interpreted as they were always intended and not expanded to cover reserved issues like illegal migration.
Which is just waffle, okay? So what he's basically saying here is immigration has nothing to do with Northern Ireland. Immigration is a reserved matter, like, for example, when it comes to Scotland and Wales as well. This is the remit of the British government. This is the remit of Westminster. So, but see, the problem here is that human rights are embedded in the Good Friday Agreement. Now, what's going to happen here? Well, there are two possibilities. Well, the British government, of course, will appeal this and they'll fail because obviously this is in breach of the Good Friday Agreement if they go along with this. Well, what will end up happening is they'll have to make a decision. Do we water down our immigration bill to satisfy the Good Friday Agreement and the Unionists in Northern Ireland? So we have a uniform bill across, the British Isles, or as the British Isles, the United Kingdom. What am I saying? The United Kingdom. Or do we ignore Northern Ireland and say, okay, well, when the asylum seekers go into Northern Ireland, they're protected, and we reinforce the hard border between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. I see that's the logical outcome here, because the Tories are not going to rehash the immigration bill to suit Northern Ireland. They don't give a crap about Northern Ireland. They don't give a crap about unionists. And for some reason, the DUP seem to think that they have some sort of leverage over the Tory government, over the Tory party. They don't. So the DUP are desperate to come up and say, look, we pointed out these problems before. You should have listened to us. You didn't listen to us. They didn't listen to you because they don't care. Or they already understood these problems and they said, well, to hell with Northern Ireland. What we'll do is we'll just reinforce the border in the Irish Sea. We did it before with Brexit. We'll do it again. the DUP and Unionists will rant and rave about an Irish sea border. They did, but eventually it went away, as it did, as we had predicted it would, because they have no power over the Tory government, and they'll have no power over a Labour government. The DUP can rant and rave and cry and whatever all they want, but they're not going to make a bit of difference. Maybe their supporters think that they can, but reality is against that. So the British government will probably appeal for optics, appeal this case in the High Court in Belfast. It'll come to nothing. I'm pretty sure. I would almost put money on it that it will come to nothing. And then they'll be left with, okay, well, what do we do now? Do we change the legislation in Parliament where we won? Brexiteers in Great Britain have already come out and said, to hell with Northern Ireland. Not in so much words, but basically that's what they're saying. To hell with Northern Ireland. We got this bill through Parliament. This is our bill. We're talking about English nationalists, which are Brexiteers. This is the problem here. Brexiteers are generally English nationalists. So why the hell would they care about Northern Ireland? They don't care about the Union. They don't care about Scotland or Wales. They care about English nationalism. They care about immigration into England. When will the DUP actually wake up and understand that? You're fighting against people who don't give a crap about you. You're trying to win over support from people who don't give a crap about you. Maybe the DUP will eventually understand that. They have greater friends in Dublin than they have in London. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.